avoiding a harm to civilians.
Respectfully, and you take into account his background, where he grew up, it would seem to me that if you add it all up, we're just dealing with a street anti-Semite. Now, the fact that he sat in the room with 40, well, you know what? The fact that he sat in a room with 40 Jewish senators and said, maybe I made a mistake. I would say the same thing too if I was the president and I sat with 40 Jews around.
Yeah, I'm not his friend. I think it's overselling to call me anti-Semite.
Congressman Weiner, throughout history, the Jews have been persecuted by every nation they've ever been in. Anti-Semites are rabid.
Yeah.
Now, why should I assume that with all the facts that I present now, why should I assume he's not?
Well,
Show me something he's done that shows that he likes Jews. And I don't care if his half-brother Mark is Jewish. It doesn't make a difference.
Here's what I would say. I think that you can legitimately, and I have, legitimately believe that the administration has made mistakes in its dealings with Israel. I believe that you reserve the title of anti-Semite for someone more than someone a member of the government who has a policy you don't like. I don't think that you've given me any reason to believe as an anti-Semite. I think that it's one thing to say you don't think he's strong enough in Israel. I got to tell you something. I believe that when it comes to support of Israel, it's not a partisan thing. I was very supportive. I thought President Bush was not a very good president, but I said he was great on Israel. Ronald Reagan, very good on Israel. Jimmy Carter, I followed around the country speaking about what a terrible president he was on Israel. And he might be, by the way, an anti-Semite. But all of that being said, I think that, what winds up, we lose some credibility in having legitimate policy disputes with someone when we resort to throwing that around so casually. I didn't have anybody, we had no contact with Hamas.
Doesn't matter. You have power to push as much as you push Netanyahu, because on the same day that there was a representative from the U.S. in Jerusalem, the same day they wanted to build a memorial for a terrorist who killed people.
Right.
I didn't see Ms. Clinton running to CNN to speak about it.
There was, first of all, hold on, let's not mix the two things up. The first thing is the Hamas issue. To be honest with you, we don't even acknowledge Hamas as a legitimate governing. In fact, the truth is, it's been our policy, maybe not stated, but it's been our policy to support Israel in its blockade of Gaza. On the other thing, you're exactly right. This, by the way, this subject came up. The naming of the square in the name of a homicide bomber came up in the meeting with President Obama. I would agree with you. I think that he should, if he was sincere about doing this right, and maybe he would agree with this. If he's going to give a speech in Cairo, he should have gotten on the plane and given a speech standing in Jerusalem and saying this is the capital of Israel, that it's up to Israel to make some decisions, that we want there to be peace and we stand ready. The Rose Garden is ready. If you want to have a meeting here, I'm going to do anything necessary to facilitate it. But that's, that didn't happen. The reason Abu Mazen's not at the table, President Obama, because President Obama made such a high, he said there's got to be absolutely zero settlements. Well, there's no such thing as zero growth. There's no such thing as zero building. There's no country that's ever succeeded having zero building. So now the Palestinian Authority says, well, why do I need to sit and negotiate? I'm just going to wait till I get 100%. And by the way, Bibi likes it also, because he sits back and says, I'll give you 90%, knowing it's not going to get accepted. So from a tactical perspective, they haven't done a very good job. But I'm not at all concerned about having the same standard, because if you look at the list of, being an ally, I think Israel has a lot more boxes checked. In the journalistic world today, so long as you have someone on the other side of the issue saying their piece, there's no arbiter of facts. So I was watching the news today, there was no one even acting, someone would say something into a microphone and you can plainly see with your eyes it wasn't true. And the only point that I'm making is sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes it's easier to establish the facts, and I'll tell you something else. Sometimes our government doesn't have the most credibility. Yes, sir.
What we need from you at this point in time in our history is not to allow World War II to happen again. Mr. Obama, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not an anti-Semite, but he's acting like Neville Chamberlain. He's talking to the bad guys. He's appeasing the worst evil people who every single day in their language say, We are going to murder you. We're going to kill you. They have rallies, destroy the United States, kill Israel, destroy everyone. We in New York suffer from people coming from abroad and trying to blow up the Marquis Hotel right under our very nose. It's only by the will of God that it didn't blow up. The police didn't stop it. Okay, we're New Yorkers. I just met with someone from the Home Front Command. They want to work together with us because Israel and New York is suffering from the same problems. Okay, this is a pre-World War II scenario. A nuclear weapon we can't even plan for in emergency preparedness. That's the one thing we don't plan for because there's nothing you can do. If one goes off, that's it. It's over. We can't keep saying, as Obama did, March, April, May, June, September, October, November, January is the deadline. We're past all the deadlines. The administration in the UN, the Russians and the Chinese are not really our friends. They're supporting them. They're giving them weapons. If we believe that the UN and appeasement is going to work, we have to be strong. Mayor Dagan, the head of Mossad, for the first time publicly said today that the administration's policies are undermining the United States, and he never says anything out loud. Okay, and he's a brilliant man. I implore you and the people in the room to do what you can to be our voice and remember back to pre-World War II and to go out there and beat the halls of Congress, stand on the steps of Congress. You know, parties forget it. You know, Alphonse D'Amato used to go and stand on Congress's steps, and he was always supportive of Israel. Chuck Schumer needs to support publicly. Yeah. So let's forget about that.
Look, you
make things in perspective.
Let's keep this in mind. Neither the Israelis or the United States or anyone else I've spoken to has the easy answer. There is not a military answer that is a failsafe. There is not a proposal from the Israeli military of what it is that they think they can do. They have said publicly. I know maybe they have a different plan privately. They have said publicly that it's difficult to knock out 9, maybe 11 light water reactors that are underground. This is not 1981 and 82, where you've got to think it's not even 2007, where you can see what Syria is planning to do. The reason I mention this is that, yes, nobody believes that the Russians or the Chinese are somehow going to be our bulwark against Iran. But if we are going to have, we got to use every arrow in our quiver, every tool that we have. Look, every week, just about, there is some organization from New York or from around the country coming and lobbying on dealing with Iran. And many of them recently said, just pass the sanctions, pass the sanctions. Look, I wish that U.S. sanctions would be the tool to end the Iranian threat. I tell you what, the U.S. combined with Russia and China is better. It's better. And so the question is, what do you do? And what I asked the following question, which I think should be the one that should be foremost in your mind. Is the United States doing everything militarily, strategically, and intelligence-wise to help Israel prepare for what might be the inevitable, where they have to meet force with force? And every time, even in the midst of complaints about the U.S. policies coming from the Israeli side, the answer to that was yes. They've even said to me, and they've said to some of my colleagues who are on committees that get briefed on this more frequently than I, that the support that they're getting is stronger than they've had at any administration. But it is not, by the way, there aren't rallies every day on the streets against the United States. There are rallies on the streets every day against Ahmadinejad. During the Second Intifada, just about every night on the